And hello, and welcome to the Pumpkin Copter Cast, a good old podcast about video games. And today, I'm excited because I'm still getting used to the whole game devs actually wanting to talk to me thing. We've got Danielle Ropnolc, however you pronounce that, and Arynis, all game devs from the popular sort of visual novel sort of adventure game Read Only Memories. So say hello, everyone.
Hi.
Howdy.
Hi.
So before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, what are your specific individual roles in the making of this game? So, yeah.
Who would like to answer first?
Um, I guess I can. I'm Danielle, and my role currently with Midboss is as an intern, and I'm one of the newest members with them. And I just kind of do whatever tasks are necessary, and I've gotten moved around to a few different things, and I'm having a good time so far.
Okay. So, Ropnolc, what is your role in the making of this game?
My role has shifted throughout its development, but I've been around the longest out of us three. I've been there since the start, almost of 2064. My role was, for the most part, timing text with the voice lines so that it all synced up whenever it played. I also did a couple of songs. I helped in set building a bit as well, and I did a cheat code system, and I put in some sneaky secrets.
Cheat codes and read-only memories. Huh.
Yeah. You want to change Turing's color? Just type a character name. or other things. There's a lot of them.
Goodness. And Arynis, what is your role in the game?
So, hi everyone, I'm Arynis, and I'm kind of an unique case because I've been originally just a fan of the game, but I have been, I found bugs and stuff, and I kept reporting them to Midboss, like through the Twitter. And I also kept asking about the story of the setting and the world. And so the game has gone through a few changes as it got patched and updated. And I also kept an eye on those changes. Then there was a change that kind of concerned me because it involved a character that I liked, and I wasn't sure if that was the right thing to do for them. So I wrote a feedback about those changes, and then they were like, okay, let's discuss these changes together. And that's how I got on board on the team. And since then, I just do whatever is expected of me. So, yeah, I have kind of a flexible role.
Huh.
Excuse me.
Bug spotting is important.
That's how I got hired at first. Well, it was through some other thing that I did, but my involvement at first was, spotting bugs and bothering Matt on Twitter.
I remember I became friends with the game dev team by pointing out a certain bug in one of their games, so it's a thing that
pointing
can
out
definitely
bugs.
happen.
Pointing out bugs is super useful for like any dev team pretty much, as long as like if they ask for bug fixes and stuff, or even sometimes if they don't and they just like there's a huge thing in their game, like you should probably let them know in a very polite but like a very detailed manner of like what happens and stuff like that.
Very true. So now we can move on to the actual questions I've prepared so that I can at least give the illusion of professionalism. So let's start with the most obvious one. What is read-only memories? Like, how would you summarize it?
Read-only memories is cyberpunk adventure styled after sort of like those classic text-based games, and most people compare it to Snatcher, but it has a few other games that it's based on, like a game called Jesus in all caps. So it's also a game about these social struggles in the future that have nothing that are not really like the ones we have today, because in that future the social struggles that we have today are no longer much of a thing. Like racism and sexism, those things are a thing of the past. However, in this game, the problems are whether people should become hybrids or cyborgs to improve their life or cope with like a disability, and then the whole split is pretty much humans should stay pure, or humans should do whatever they can to survive, even if it means discarding their humanity, quote unquote. The game started like many years ago. It was a crowdfunded project. Although I wasn't really much. I didn't have much involvement back then, so that's pretty much all I can say. I knew it was crowdfunded, but I was only there after the initial release of ROM. 2064 was where I did most of my work.
All right. So how would the three of you, quotation marks, sell this game, end quotation marks, to someone who's either not played a ton of games like it, or might be entirely unfamiliar with what it's about? Yeah.
So I know that the way that I've described it to a lot of people is, just a visual novel adventure game, which means like it's very story driven, it's character driven, and there's definitely a huge narrative through line to the plot between like all the chapters and stuff like that. There's characters that are memorable and really fun, and there's a very vibrant sense of where the story takes place. It's a very San Francisco is just a very vibrant city. I know that every time that I play, I'm always finding little new things here and there, and overall it's just a really like immersively fun game that talks about a lot of as Ropnolc said, they're not like our struggles nowadays, but they're struggles in the future that, like, based on all the other like things that have been in the media, I can kind of see happening in a way in the future. So I feel like everything's very set in reality, even if it is a future reality.
So, Arynis, how would you sell the game to someone?
What got me into the game was the setting and the world. Like, one thing I liked about ROM is that it felt real enough. Like, I could imagine myself in this world, but there were also new things like the hybrids and the social issues, which really fascinated me and think about. And I also really like the characters because no one is what they seem. Like, everyone has some kind of depth to them. So if there's a character that seems very black and white, that's probably not the case. I feel like there's more to everyone. And yeah, so I really like the lore of the game. Like, you can really dig into these details and there's a lot to see. And I think that process can be extremely rewarding if you put the pieces together. And like, for example, there's Tomcat making a comment about looking into the traffic control system during Chapter 2. At the time, it seems like some cool hacker thing they do, but that gains a very different meaning when you get to Chapter 5. So it's small things like that, small details that look different when you examine them or replay the game. And lastly, I think one thing that is nice about the game is that it's a cyberpunk story that doesn't take a dark and gritty stance. Like, it's overall bright and optimistic about the future, but it's also got elements that are darker and maybe disturbing, but it's not all hopeless or whatever.
Yeah. Something I noted while I was playing through it is that the cybernetic, like, various types of enhancements and the hybridization, and like most other like movies or something like that, these would probably turn these people into horrible monsters that you'd probably need to smash with a hammer. But it's refreshing that, like, oh, she's got a robot leg, and bits of her brain have been replaced with machinery to help her function better, and absolutely nothing bad. And I'm like, oh, that's refreshing.
Yeah, it certainly makes everybody seem normal. Like it makes people don't seem like they don't come from an uncanny valley, even if the concept that surrounds them kind of does sound like it.
And Ropnolc, how would you, quote, sell the game to someone?
It's kind of a hard question because when I first saw the game, it kind of sold itself to me. It was very aesthetically pleasing. It had this look to it that reminded me of PC Engine or like Sega Saturn games. Well, more PC Engine than Sega Saturn because it was very pixelated. Sega Saturn used a lot more detailed sprite work. But it was still very nice looking, and the music was very good. Like Tumelo's music reminded me a lot of old Genesis, but also Sega CD games to some extent. So that alone was quite good. After I started playing the game, I found the dialogue to be just immensely funny. Also at first glance, there was the whole point and click system, which I think is something that the industry is kind of more in need of. Like, I really love point and click games, and there have been like some attempts at bringing it back, but they're very small and people don't notice it as much as they should. As for the dialogue, it's very fun. Everything has a purpose. Like, even if it's just a small joke, everything has a purpose. You can inspect everything, and it's not just going to be like, it's just a plant, it's just a window. It'll be like, I can see outside, and I can see some person walking down the street, and they just said fuck, something like that. Where where like every item, every action has a description that is more fun to read, and so it kind of makes the game far more immersive because, hey, this is kind of how I would look at things. But yeah, also the game kind of made me like robots more. And,
Same.
Oh,
and I
used
think
to actually be
people would
scared of
furries
robots.
more too. I'm just kidding.
man.
But yes.
So, can I just mention one thing too that I didn't mention in my cell?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because when Ropnolc said the thing about how it looks aesthetically pleasing, it definitely does. Like, the art is beautiful, and then I think one major element that pulled me in is just Turing as a whole is just great, like aesthetically and just as a character. And there's so many options to be mean to Turing, and if someone chooses those, I'm not like gonna be like, oh, how dare you, because it's part of the game. But I could never be mean to Turing. And
Actually, that's great.
It's,
Go on, sorry.
oh my god. I just love Turing. They're the cutest little bot, and I love where they get their name from, Alan Turing, and all that jazz. It's just such a... I love Turing.
For me, it was... Well, Turing is my favorite. Tomcat is definitely my favorite human character. And it's because of the purple hair, and I just always love seeing people with hair colors that don't exist in nature. And I was a little bit jealous because as a ginger, dyeing my hair is a recipe for a disaster. But yeah, I, this is a bit of slightly unrelated, but when the game started getting into like the themes of should we treat robots like peoples and should Turing have all the rights as a regular flesh and blood person, it kind of reminded me of a while ago Archie Comics made a comic book series based on the Mega Man games, and weirdly enough, one of its primary themes was machines as people, or should we treat them as people? And it just reminded me that, people like Tomcat or whoever's interacting with Turing, they talk to them like an actual person, and that just reminds me of a scene where Dr. Light describes Mega Man and Roll as his kids and not like as his machines, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it hits me right in the heart. That's just a me thing.
No, that's honestly like really cool. I hadn't heard about that. And whenever there's some kind of story that humanizes robots that like are sentient and like have feelings, and I can get hooked on that too, honestly. Well, obviously, here I am. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so onward. So I guess since Ropnolc was heavily involved in the game from the get-go, I'll ask you this first. Why was the setting in Neo SF? Like, why specifically there?
This is mostly just my insight on the matter, but I think a big part of why the setting was Neo SF was because the whole Neo thing was also kind of derivative from Snatcher, where Snatcher took place in Neo Kobe. But I know that several of the team members at Midboss live in San Francisco themselves. So I think they had a lot of reference material by just going outside. So it since they knew their homeland a little better, it was better for world building in general. Although this is not really a question that all three of us can effectively answer because we were all in the 2064 team rather than the ROM team back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Danielle, do you have any thoughts as to why Neo SF was the setting other than what Ropnolc just said?
I guess I don't know. Like, I guess other than what Ropnolc said, the only other thing I can really think of is that because I don't live in San Francisco, I don't live in California. I live on the other side of the country from that, and so it's the fact that I have myself always seen California and like San Francisco and other hub cities like that to be kind of like in front of the times in a way. So I guess I can kind of relate to the fact that it seems like that would be one of the cities that would go through everything and see through to the future. But I can't guarantee that that's why they chose it, but it definitely seems like something that could be a possibility of why.
Good point. So, do you have any thoughts on this, Arynis?
Well, personally, I think they wanted to choose San Francisco as a city because they wanted to show the city to people. Like, that's one thing I enjoyed a lot about the game, like finding more about the city and seeing the places that actually exist in real life. That, like, I really liked that, and it helped give the game its unique feel for me. Like, it felt warm and welcoming, so it was really nice.
There's a good reason as any. And so, like, what was a particularly difficult part of the game's development? Like, either early on or in the middle or near the end?
This is kind of subjective to each of our experiences, because I was there since almost the beginning of 2064. Zoe, or Arynis, sorry, was there since March, and Danielle is our newest member.
I wasn't there.
But for me, the hardest part was, I think it was considered the middle of our development, but it was supposed to be the end. The game was slated to come out in around August, and so we were trying our very hardest to get a lot of stuff finished and wrapped up before release. Unfortunately, we kept running into a lot of roadblocks and just a whole lot of blows to morale, and things just kind of went downhill from there, and it was kind of bad for a little while. But we did make a comeback, and we managed to get the game out, even if it was half a year later. But yeah, that was roughly the hardest part, because you could feel like everyone was feeling kind of down. There weren't as many people as there were before, that sort of thing. It was a bit rough.
So, Danielle, during your time, did you see or experience any particular difficulties with the game, or just in...
No, not really, because I actually came in, I guess I didn't specify before, I came in June or July, I believe. I can't remember which one, but... What?
Oh, I was just commenting on June or July.
Yeah, no, so I'm very new, as I said, because I'm an intern with them, and so I have been a fan for a very long time, though, and I did follow development blog processes, but that can never show what happens inside a company. But everyone, there's ups and downs to developments of anything, games included.
Very true. Arynis, did you see any difficulties during your time with the game?
I wouldn't call it difficulty, more like a challenge. So one of the tasks I had to do was time the dialogue to the voiceover, which is, well, people might think it's automatic, but it's actually all by hand. So yeah, it's a really precise process. So getting that right is kind of hard, but I think it's really rewarding when you get it right and it just fits very well. So yeah, the timing process is rather difficult, but I also found it very fun to do.
So, what is something each of you would change about the game if you had the opportunity? Either something aesthetically in the story, or on a technical level, if you could.
Mm-hmm. For me, that's a tough question, because there were a few things. One thing, we were going to implement pause music, but that kind of fell through. But I still use the song elsewhere for a secret. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's kind of hard, because at the end of the day, we are happy with what we put out. So no regrets and all that. But at the same time, I think it would have been nice to further tweak the cheat system that I implemented. Although otherwise, I don't think there was much. There's not much that we feel like we're lacking, that we aren't trying to fix for the future. Woo.
So, Danielle, is there anything you would change, technical-wise, story-wise, aesthetic-wise?
I don't know, because since I saw these questions, I've been trying to think of an answer for that, and it's really difficult, because from a perspective of just coming into it, having played the game, and then I actually just played it again recently to refresh myself. I don't know, everything, it seems very smooth and calculated, because I feel like everything's there that wanted to be there. I get that sense from the game, and so I don't think I would change it personally, because it's just it was a vision, and I think it definitely comes across as what everyone wanted it to.
So, Arynis, would you change anything in the game if you could?
Well, I'm like Ropnolc and Danielle, that there are a lot of things in the game and it's really hard to choose. I think everything turned out really well otherwise. That's why I fell in love with the game in the first place. But if there's anything I would change is, so you know how you can use items on characters, like the spoiled milk? And Decker was someone who didn't really have any item interactions. Like, you could just use the zapper on him and that's it. So you can't really use anything else on him, even if you wanted to. But I actually had the opportunity to change that just recently. And I'm super excited what people will think of it, because I think it turned out really great. I really like Decker's voice actor and his performance, so so next time you see Decker in chapter 2 or 5, definitely try using some items on him.
Okay. I mean, if it was me, I'd just do something goofy, like have a character that, Jess from the game, like, never interacted with, like Gus or something, and have, like, Gus be so nice that none of Jess's snark works on him, and she just gets frustrated and walks away. Because
I kind of want to see that now too.
But more character interactions, like between the other characters, is always a fun thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But it also requires, voice acting and writing and checking up on timing and stuff. So it sort of just would be using up our time, and we gotta push forth with new things.
Yep. Fun to think about. And
Forever ahead, canon.
So, and the next question: what is your personal favorite part of the game? And to any of the -7 people watching this right now or listening to this, this is probably gonna get even more spoilery than we have been. So just a heads up. So, what is each of your favorite parts of the game?
Huh.
I can go first. For me, my personal favorite part was basically near the end, where the game was coming to a climax, where the plot was starting to really escalate, I guess is the best way to describe it. Because for the most part, the game stays pretty lighthearted, and then it stays lighthearted with a few moments, but specifically in Chapter 5, you start gathering up your allies that you've met throughout the journey, and you have to ask them, "Hey, help us make a distraction so we can go and infiltrate this super company." By the way, I'm just like extrapolating spoilers without going into too much detail. And Mello's music for the climatic parts, like trying to basically steal data from a data center, was excellent. Like there was this like nice tense music, and there was a dialogue puzzle that you had to get through in order to sneak past security, and then there was a glyph puzzle, and you only had like a specific amount of time to succeed, and that amount of time depended on what you had done previously in the game. Like getting certain things earlier than normal, and after that, you get into Chapter 6, where it's all culminating, where like the characters are forming riots to help you out, and you go in and have to fight off some robots. Also, there you have to navigate a sewer to get in. That was also a little fun thing. And the music escalates even further when you're just trying to fight your way through security in this like server farm complex. And then there's a big twist, just the big twist with one of the characters, and you have to try to stay alive for as long as possible in this weird chase puzzle. And after that, there comes the whole like big amalgamation of what you're trying to do, which is to give all robots the same kind of sapience that Turing does, but this at the same time puts Turing's life at risk. And so this character that you've been with this entire time matters quite a bit more to you than it would if we did this earlier. And the music helps a lot with this. Again, I really do admire Mello's work in all of this. It really does bring it all together. And with that mini game, I call it a mini game, but it's really just sort of an interactive dialogue with Turing. That's just extremely emotional. Turing is sort of just breaking down and glitching up, and like is pretty much in danger of dying right there and then. Spoilers, that's one of the endings, by the way. And depending on what you've done, this could bring sapience to all ROMs, which is the good ending. Hooray! There's then like other endings where it's not as happy, or it's just downright awful. But I won't be going into much more detail about those. Play the game. Play through the game. Do it. But yes, pretty much the big climatic bits of the game were my favorite because they incited the most emotion. The rest of the game was just fun and immersive, and you were just like having a good time, like talking to discarded paper on the streets, or observing people, or using like your spoiled milk on everything. But yeah, those were my thoughts.
So, Danielle, what was your favorite part?
So I really like the ending as well. I'm definitely completely on board with everything that Ropnolc just said. But instead of going over that again, I will instead talk about Endless Christmas, because I love Endless Christmas. So Endless Christmas is the part at the end of the game where is it just because you get the true canon ending that shows up? I actually don't know why it shows up. I just always get the ending that is the good one because I can't hurt Turing. But basically, Endless Christmas is a time at the end of the game, once all the events have transpired. It's like an extra chapter at the end where it's Christmas Day and everything's okay now, and there's sapience with all robots, and it's just you get to go around as the journalist and Turing and just talk to people again and see what they're up to after everything. Because after, as Ropnolc said, you gathered your allies, they helped you out, they helped you get through all this. You get to go talk to them all again, and so you talk to them all, you discover some new places, like the arcade that opens up on Christmas, Zone 3. I love that arcade. I wish it was real. And then there's also, like, you see all the newly sapient robots in the Golden Gate Park. And it's just really interesting because you finally get a look at what the city is going to be like for who knows how long. And now that's something that you and Turing have to worry about.
So, Arynis, what was your favorite part of the game?
Well, I'm just like the others. I really like the climax of the game, but I'm going to talk about Chapter 6 myself. I really like it when the chapter starts with the final round playing in the background. Like, that is awesome. It really makes you feel like that the final is coming up. Everything is going to fall into pieces, come together. And yeah, the final round is one of my favorite songs, period. Like, if I had to name one, that's it. And then, yeah, you get your distraction going or not, and then you get to talk to your allies one last time before you head into the sewers. And those conversations are also really deep and meaningful. Like, you can gain an insight into your teammates. And well, the sewers were funny for me because I'm used to dying in adventure games, so I was like, oh my god, am I going to die in here? Well, thankfully, you don't get a death here if you fail the puzzle. So that was kind of a relief because mazes have been hunting me ever since the Legend of Kyrandia. And yeah, and then you make it inside the server building, and then you have to fight off some robots, and the big twist of the game comes up, which is my favorite part of the game because of the character in question. Like, it seems very black and white at first, but then that character just unveils themselves and their story, and it really paints a different picture of them, and it really makes you wonder about things. And and after that, you have the climax with Turing, and I agree that it's very emotional, and I actually teared up several times while playing it through. Like, it was that great. And like Ropnolc said, Tumelo's music is godly. It really helped make the scenes. Oh, and also the voice acting. So the voice acting was fantastic in these parts. Like, I don't think these scenes would have made the same impact without the voice acting.
Yeah. My favorite part, again, one of my favorite parts is, again, also near the end, just because, it sounds like Turing is just in just horrible, horrible, horrible pain, and like, ugh, and then Tomcat, who you're talking to, well, they're trying to do some type of hacky thing that I don't know, and they start friggin' getting desperate and trying to work fast, and just, that's awesome, just because Turing and Tomcat are my favorite characters in the game, and my lighthearted favorite part of the game is how after Gus is introduced in the Stardust Bar, he and Turing pretty much become rivals in terms of memorizing ingredients and preparations for drinks, and Turing seems to get mad, and in another world, you could make an entire comic or something about that alone, and I just always found that funny.
Gus AU rivalry coming soon to a book near you.
I've seen Stranger Things. So, now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can move to the truly ridiculous questions. So, the first one is, do you think Tomcat would be the type of person that would, flip their lid at if they had to watch movies that portrayed hacking like grossly inaccurately, or would they just shrug it off?
I personally think Tomcat would just unironically watch them with their friends and just sort of laugh at it. They would just sort of be like laughing within amongst themselves at like how ridiculous it is, and it's like, yeah, right, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can unironically enjoy a movie even though it's like ridiculous in almost every aspect, and your personal experience just makes it all the more entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Ropnolc. I think that honestly, like, Tomcat would probably mentally be like, oh wow, all this is so wrong, but at the same time it's like funny because like they have such an understanding of all these things, and the fact that they have so much more to worry about on their plate that like they probably won't get mad at just the hacking.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's just, I'm in.
Yeah.
I actually typed on my notepad by accident with that. I hacked my notepad, everybody. I'm in.
Woo!
So, I guess the next question would be, what would Tomcat / Turing / Jess's favorite Pokemon be, based on whatever knowledge of Pokemon you all have?
Too much knowledge. I love Pokemon. I think for Turing, we all kind of, well, I don't know what Arynis thought, but we all kind of, I think, were talking about Smeargle earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Smeargle, I think Smeargle.
Oh,
And Golett. I
And
think
Golett.
Turing would roulette to Golett, the
Ha.
robot Pokemon. Golurk is also awesome because it's basically like a giant Megazord and it can learn fly.
I didn't know that, actually. Something I'll have to keep in mind.
Yeah, I
I
got
think-
one and I named it Kyoji. Go on, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just like, I got a little like, I kept thinking about this question because again, I know too much about Pokemon sometimes. And I was also like, what other aspects make up Turing besides like the art stuff, which I guess all came to mind at first, which is really cool. So I had Smeargle, and then I'm also just like, well, they're blue. So I was just thinking of tiny blue round Pokemon, and I'm like, Azurill's pretty cute. So, or like Squirtle, I don't know. Maybe plant Pokemon too, some grass Pokemon in there. Just little things. I don't know, because I just feel like they would surround themselves with like just what they surround themselves with in the game, like art and music and plants and having fun and yeah.
So what Pokemon do you think Tomcat would have by their side all the time?
Skitty.
Yeah. Skitty.
Oh, that little derpy cat.
The best derpy cat.
The tiniest little cat. Politoed is also another one that I think Tomcat would like.
I thought that too, honestly. It's just such a like God, Politoed. You don't see it very often everywhere, but it's cute.
I'm just remembering the anime when May caught a Skitty, and it was throughout the entire show was just the derpiest little thing. And I'm like, I want one.
Yeah, same.
Do you have any thoughts on the Pokemon thing, Arynis?
Unfortunately, I'm quite out of the loop on Pokemon, so sadly, I cannot say. I don't have any ideas.
That's fine. And lastly on this topic, what Pokemon would Jess have?
I think Jess would be very, very into Liepard. I think that would be a Pokemon that Jess would have. But also, I think Jess would be the kind of person who would like to kick ass and chew bubblegum and have Mewtwo and just Mega Evolve Mewtwo.
I can totally see that too. I agree. I think a few of the others that I wrote down were like, I don't know. Well, I wrote Purloin. Purloin is just the evolved form of Liepard, right? Or am I thinking the other way
Unevolved.
around? Unevolved
Other way
form.
around.
Yeah, so God, yeah. I know Pokemon, but apparently not well enough. Oh boy. But yeah, so Purloin, I wrote that down, but I think Liepard is more like Jess's, so I agree. Because, like, I don't know. I'm sorry. It's still early here.
Neat. And so, what video game do you think would get Turing into video games?
Ooh. Considering Hayden had a lot of consoles, I mean, Hayden would have been the one to get Turing into video games, but I don't know. I don't think Turing really ever expressed a like for anything in video games. Like they express that they know, but I think they seem to be good about multiplayer games for the most part. They probably played a lot with Hayden. Played a lot of Mario Kart.
Oh, that's a sight I wish I could see. So, Danielle, what video game do you think would get Turing into video games?
I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat with Ropnolc again, in the fact that since Hayden had so many retro console things that if Turing really was interested, they would have something to play from when they were first like started up, basically. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm feeling that Mario Kart answer. I don't know. It just seems to fit.
And Arynis, what video game do you think would get Turing into video games?
To be honest, I'm not really sure either, but I like Ropnolc's idea. I really want to see Hayden and Turing play games now.
Have
Like-
him play Street Fighter 2.
Oh.
Turing, I think Turing would probably enjoys cooperative more than versus. But
Yeah.
they'll kick your ass at Super Indie Carts. Just go to Zone 3 and find out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's true. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think Turing could convince Skynet to be friendly and keep it from making all the Terminators happening?
Oh, I have not watched enough of RoboCop, but not even RoboCop. What the fuck am I talking about? Terminator. It seems that I am the true Robo flop all along. Anyway, I think Turing would try, but I'm not sure if they'd succeed. Like they would definitely try because they don't want to fucking hurt anybody. But if they failed, then they would have to resort to more desperate measures.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually seen the Terminator movies. I'm sorry, but yeah, I guess I'll agree with Ropnolc. I honestly don't know much about Skynet or anything.
Unfortunately, I'm also in the same boat. It's on my list, but I haven't gotten around watching the movies yet. But I would say the same thing as Ropnolc. So Turing will try, but who knows if it will work out or not.
Yeah. So the next question, which part of you would you hybridize or replace with cybernetics if you could? If the technology was right there and your insurance would cover it, or however it works in the future.
Oh man, I don't know. It's a lot to think about.
I think
I might
mine.
just. Oh, sorry.
Go on. No,
No, go for it.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I'd probably. I realized that since I don't know how to feel about it all, like on a personal level, I think it's really great in the game and for people who want it and need it in the game. But since I'm pretty much like, I don't know if I'd want robotics like right away. I'd probably start with something like a VR implant because even though yes, it is basically a brain implant of sorts, it does seem like it is safe and it seems like it has like worked for a lot of the people in the universe currently in 2064. Because I know that Ramona has it and I think like 2 or 3 other people have it as well. So some kind of VR hookup so that I can play some of the newest games.
Hmm. So, would you do anything, Ropnolc, if you could?
I mean, one quick look at my avatar is all you need. By which I mean, hi, I'm a goddamn furry. Also, dog hybrid all the way.
What about you, Arynis?
I haven't really thought about it, but a friend of mine said that they could see me being like a rabbit hybrid, kind of like Nina. So
Aw.
that's kind of cute, but yeah, I haven't really thought about it.
If I could do that, I'd probably either get like a chameleon eye, because chameleon's eyes can look in 2 different directions, and as a teacher of the young people, that would come in very handy.
Oh
And
yeah.
either that or just a cybernetic eye augmentation of some kind, because when I was a young'un, my left eye was always weaker than my right eye, and I had to do that weird thing where you have to wear an eye patch, like the eye patch that like sticks to your face like a band-aid, so that when you rip it off your face, it hurts. And so,
Oh.
Ow.
yeah, it's a lot worse when you're 6 and you're like, why do I have to have this on? But yeah, that's what I'd do. Nothing too major. Yeah. So, and this brings us to our final question, and again, to the negative 13 people listening to this right now on the YouTubes, I'll post a list of all the questions in the description, and just for the clarification, it is not a typo. So, just in your official capacity as people who have been involved in video games in some capacity, I have to ask, is video games?
Yes.
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 It's video games? Yes.
Yes.
Video games very much is.
Do you have anything to add, Daniel or Arynis?
Just yes.
Well, I would like to add regarding the item interactions I have mentioned. So there will be a patch coming with new voice acting. So that's when it will come in. So, and it's really great so far. I hope people will look forward to playing the voice parts with the voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's it for me.
So I guess
Look forward to it.
the common consensus is, in the question of is video games, is yes.
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 Yeah. And with that, it brings us about roughly to the end of our little chat together. So before I officially wrap it up, is there anything any of you want to add or plug?
Follow me at Ropnolc on Twitter. I do art. I draw, I think.
You do. Ropnolc draws.
So does Danielle.
I do. Follow me at Danny B. Solomon, which is DANIBSOLOMON. Yeah.
Let's see, Ropnolc on Twitter, and follow,
Well, shit.
and yeah, if I could learn how to spell. Danielle.
I can write it in the chat if you'd like.
Yep, there's a lot of Daniels on the internets.
Fortunately, there is only one of me because my name is gibberish.
Beautiful gibberish.
It sounds like it would have European meaning. No, it's just gibberish. I made it up. I did it for Pokemon stream once, and then it just stuck with me forever since.
Pokemon's a good reason to do things.
It is. So, anything you want to plug, Arynis, before we sign off?
Well, I love discussing ROM, so if there's anyone wanting to talk about the game or anything, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I will write it down as well. There. So, yeah, I'm very much open to talking to people, either on Twitter or my Tumblr. So, yeah, that's it.
All right, then.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. I just realized. When it comes to things with Midboss, if you want to follow Midboss and the progress with current and future endeavors. Twitter handle for Midboss is @WeAreMidboss.
All right then. And that kind of brings us to the end of whatever it is I'm calling this. So, thank you very much to the negative 27 people watching this on the YouTubes. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe, share it with people. Follow me on the Twitters @Tigorman83. You'll know it's me because I'm the one with Vivian from Paper Mario 1000 Year Door as my little avatar, also known as the best character in that game. And yeah, I hope all you enjoyed this, and I look forward to hearing from all of you again.
Likewise.
Yay!
Likewise. Thank you.
So, thank
Thank
you
you for having us.
Yep, thank you very much, everyone. Until next time.